as you'll see in my presentation, I'm very alarmed at the fact that we're doing listening exactly the way we used to do it in the 1950s and 1960s, if any of us were around. But we've just kind of taken on that mantle, and we're asking our students these comprehension questions, and it's just not working. So we're very often seeing skills where you get reading and writing are up here, listening is down here, and speaking is up there. And it doesn't have to be like that. And so what I'm presenting today is a possible solution to the problem, if you like. And so I'd love to invite you down to the stand. So I'm going to be talking for about 25 minutes, which will give us 5 minutes for questions and answers, hopefully some answers at the end. But then I'd very much like to invite you down to our stand at 54C, because listening is such a huge area that I'm sure I'm not going to cover everything that I need to do. But first of all, it may be preaching to the converted, because if you're sitting in here, maybe you don't think that listening is done exactly the way it should be being done. And now that we've got new technology, we can maybe do things a little bit more differently. But I'll just go over why listening doesn't work in the current traditional way that it's being done, so that we're all on the same page, I think you could say. Okay. So lovely. All right. So I don't know about you, but the word fun and the word listening, they don't normally go together in our classes. You know, we're going to do listening today. And they go, no. And what I'd like to describe to you is a way of turning that into, you turn up to the lesson and the kids go, can we do listening again today? And he said, no, sorry, we've got to do other things. Yeah. And so there's so much fear surrounding listening, and I want to turn that fear into success. And it's relatively simple the way you can transform this. Okay, and it's really based on this word that you can see here, which is interactive. At the moment, what our learners are doing is they're sitting passively, a bit like you, and listening. And then at the end, if you don't mind, I'll ask you all some comprehension questions about what you got. And you got A, B, C, or D, and I will put a trick question in there as well, just to make sure that you're all following, etc. And if that doesn't stress you out, can you lock the doors? Thank you, Richard. Okay, so if I do give you food for thought, then please come down and have a chat to us at 54C. It's really about actually using the solution that we've come up with that could certainly do with input from teachers and educators around the world, because all of you will have different experiences with listening that I'm sure you can help with. Okay, so the various factors in your learners' listening struggles, if you'll allow me to use that word. So what is causing, do you have any specific ideas about why they go, oh, no, I can't handle that? Yeah.
In some of the books I use, the listening actually comes very early on in the chapter before they've pre-taught the information.
Yep.
They're actually listening out for words that they might never have heard before, or
Yeah.
expressions that are brand new.
Yeah. Here, I hope you'll actually find that you can learn vocabulary that way, but if you're using the right sort of technology, okay? So we don't need necessarily to be scared of new vocabulary. Any other aspects of listening? Yeah.
They start with a variety of accents.
A variety of accents, yeah. And how about the speed at which they speak?
From some moment they lose track of
Yeah.
what being described if it is a lengthy script.
Yep. A lot of memory stuff going on there. Yeah. Have you ever had the case where you begin a listening and then you suddenly see their faces go?
I even could not complete the telephone number writing listening on IELTS.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I lost track.
Yeah, exactly. And then we see the jaw drop. And you see them look at each other and go, and then all of a sudden the Swati girl in the corner, is suddenly the most popular person in the class, and everybody's gathering around her to copy her A, B, C, and D. And maybe she's just using her intuition. And intuition is great for doing tests, but it doesn't actually help you improve your listening. So what we need to be doing, concentrating on in the class, is everybody in the class going to be better at listening at the end of this lesson than they were at the beginning? So let's get through this, otherwise we'll have a problem. Where I come from in Italy, English vowel sounds, they use 5 vowel sounds, we use 20 or so. Yeah? And so unless they have a good grounding in phonetics, or they do a lot of listening, those, anything like pin, pen, pun, pan, etc., they're going to be all just one word. Not to mention heat, eat, it, and hit, which for an average Italian is just eat, and eat. And I don't know if you have the same in your countries. That's funny, but it's also incredibly stressful for the language learner, because they're trying to juggle. I mean, I could do it with these water bottles, but it might be a little bit of a disaster. They're doing that every few seconds, or maybe even more than that. And then do you know that moment when you see them just give up? Yeah? And they're quite right, because they're defending themselves against this horrible attack that they're getting from us by asking them comprehension questions before they're ready. So the rhythm, of course, connected speech, we all know about how that can cause a problem. I sometimes even do a dictation with them. One word. Okay, you ready? Yeah, no problem. One word, that's no problem. Okay, the word is When are you going to say the word? Oh, sorry. It's the word as it's pronounced usually in a phrase. And I'll do a hangman with them with fish and chips, and I normally almost manage to get them. The old games are the best, aren't they? And then I invite them to keep a page of their fish and chips moments of when they were completely fooled by connected speech. I mean, I think "and" is probably one of the most common words in English, I believe, and yet, I don't think I've ever done this, and a student go A-N-D. And so what else is happening while they're listening and getting completely lost? It's almost too difficult to work out. But with this solution, you will start to get insights into their minds. The intonation of English causes problems because not everybody speaks like us. And English spelling. Now, what's the connection between spelling and listening? Well, of course, if you decide that through is pronounced trug because your teacher has given you 3 pages to read because listening is too difficult for you, you have to decide what the pronunciation of all of the words you are reading is. It's almost impossible to switch off the brain and just read for meaning. No, the pronunciation automatically comes into your head. And especially if you're in a country like where I live, where each letter corresponds to a sound. And therefore, it ought to be the same in English, shouldn't it? Kind of not really. Okay, and so learner self-worth. I don't know about you, but most people just think, I'm no good at listening. I never will be able to do this. And guess what? They're right when they say that. And it's a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, as we'll see in a second. And there's also learner intuition. Of course, intuition is great, but it can be a strength or a weakness according to how they're using it. If you're just imagining what the speaker must be saying, that's great in some circumstances if you have to get the number of the platform that the train goes from. But if there's some negatives or some interrogatives in there and you're not picking up on those, well, you're not going to understand anything. Okay, correcting our learners. Now, we all know about correcting their speaking, we know about correcting their writing, and in some instances with their reading. But listening? I mean, how do you correct their listening? We'll see a little bit about that in a second. You'd almost need a superpower to be able to do that, and I hope to give you a little bit of a superpower in a second or so. Testing or learning. Very often the way that we prepare our students for exams is by giving them exams, giving them tests. But if they're doing the course to prepare for that level that you're trying to get them to, is giving them a test the way that they're going to be learning? Probably not. So what if our listening lessons were about what they could perhaps do in the future, rather than what they can do right now? So that's a process that involves, or imagine it were a process that involves experiential learning, self-correction, peer correction, negotiating meaning. This is not stuff that we normally associate with listening, okay? What if our listening lessons were about learning new lexis, as we were saying before? You don't generally give a listening text so that you can introduce new vocabulary, okay? What about learning new syntax? Again, even less, if you like, yeah? And interpreting sounds from the real world rather than the speakers the very expert speakers, but don't you all hate those voices you get on the CDs and now the MP3s? And if listening were about improving your rhythm, being able to incorporate aspects of connected speech, improving your intonation, improving your word stress. I was in the Pronsig yesterday and we were looking at Mark Hancock's excellent books, and they were talking about happy families and how we move the stress around in words. And when you give a reading, everybody, of course, as I said before, decides where the stress is going to go, as well as the pronunciation that you're going to give this. And how about if listening were helping you to improve your writing? I was quite surprised with this feedback, because teachers came along and they said, yeah, they're improving their writing because they are working on all of the stuff that they can't hear, which is the connected speech. And so they're having to decide what words will fit in there. So it may be the articles for Slav speakers, or it may be the prepositions, the conjunctions, etc., etc. And so getting this model again and again and again, they're actually improving their syntax and therefore their writing skills. Okay, so as I was saying before, the usual way we do listening is listen twice, no more than twice, because the teacher is controlling the button, and you have to remain passive. So you either pass the test, and then you get to find out their level. Isn't that great? Yeah? But what do they get out of it if they're passing the test? Are they learning anything? Well, if they're getting all the questions right, they're probably not learning anything at all. Yeah? And if they can't, then they fail the test. And they get this self-fulfilling prophecy about, I'm no good at languages, as I was saying before. And it's something that we can prevent. And I hope that I'll be able to show that to you today. So I called it Stabbing in the Dark. And the title is No More Stabbing in the Dark. Because when you've got heat, hit, eat, and it, and you don't have a proper knowledge, you don't have experience, you haven't been able to interact with these words, then you're just going to be stabbing in the dark. And we don't often understand what they are going through. So why is it, as I was seeing earlier today, somebody who couldn't understand other and had written order? Now, you can't get back from that in a normal listening experience, but you can using the Voicebooks experience. So when we're doing a listening, do we know why they make the mistakes that they make? Probably not. Do you know what mistakes they have made? I mean, I would never have guessed that other and order would be two words that they could confuse. And I've been working on listening for decades. And do we know how to help them? Well, we don't know what their problem is. We can't diagnose anything. We can give them a little bit of medicine, give them another test, and see how they feel about that. So are we just stabbing in the dark as well when it comes to that? So it's like a room full of blindfolded people, coming to an art gallery or something like that. So if only we could read their minds while they're listening, while they're making all these hypotheses. I wonder what we could find out. Well, now we can. And I will try to do the same thing with you to see what to see whether that's also true. Okay, handing over the. Oh, sorry, I had a bit of a problem with this title here. Handing over the reins, I believe it is. I don't know about people in your country, but where I come from, there is no such thing as a homophone. And so these three words have to be pronounced differently. But of course, that's not true at all. And there's reins and reins and reins. So we've got, while the teacher is controlling the class, pushing the buttons, and I think you trained for quite a long time to be a teacher, it wasn't just to learn to push a button, then you're going to find that that they're very passive about this. If it's student-led, it becomes much more interactive. Okay, I've got 5 minutes more. Okay, all right. So I think I've got through. I'm looking at your faces, and so we need to get them to work beyond their threshold. We learn to help them to decipher and decode the stuff that they can only understand with help. So what you'll find if you have a little bit more of a look here, when we do a test, we want to find out what they can already understand. But we're not really it's not very important what they can already understand. They don't need a teacher for what they can already understand. They need a teacher for what they can't understand. And at the moment, using these old 1960s approaches, we can't help them very much. So imagine you had a magic wand and you could read their minds while they're listening and hypothesizing. Time for a practical lesson, and in a second, not yet, but has anyone ever lived in Italy? Okay, all right. You're the teachers, all right? Have you got a smattering of Italian, the odd word here and there? Okay, you're the learners. And if you've got zero Italian, just see if you can get one word out of this. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so if we can switch over now, I'm going to play you an audio in Italian. We haven't done a sound check, have we? But I hope it's going to be okay. And so, teachers, shh, for the moment. All right. Learners, feel free to shout out the odd word. But let's leave it for the people who know nothing of Italian. See if they can even just get one word. Let's see what happens.
Ogni lunedì mattina vengono in pre-ricovero 8 bambini affetti da disabilità neuromotorie.
Did you hear that? Or did you need? Okay. Yeah, go.
Ogni lunedì mattina vengono in pre-ricovero 8 bambini affetti da disabilità neuromotorie.
Disabled, okay, right, okay. Let's give it a little go and see what we'll write in here.
Can the more than zero also try?
Yeah, go, yeah. But hang on just a second. Okay, did anyone hear anything connected with a person, with people? Martina, okay. So we'll write in Martina here, okay? Any other words that you might have heard about a person, people? Bambini, somebody heard in there, okay. All right, and any other words? You were saying something about disabled, but would you like to?
I think she was talking about people who might be disabled or they have a disability or something like that.
Okay, let's give it a go. That would be disabilità in, oops. Sorry.
I heard something like neuromotore.
Neuromotore, yeah, okay. But you speak good Italian, do you? Yeah.
I don't, but yeah, that's what I heard.
Okay. And should we write something like that? Yeah? All right. Okay, so let's play it once more.
Yeah.
Ogni lunedì mattina vengono in pre-ricovero 8 bambini affetti da disabilità neuromotorie.
Okay.
Vengo.
Vengo.
Vengo di Predi. And then there was a place name. Auto.
Okay, that'll do us for the moment. Okay, so if you are not an Italian speaker, it's probably rather nice to be able to hear the odd word here and there. Okay, comprehension question time. All right, let's feed this into the system. Okay, bambini were there, disabilità was there. That's great, okay? We don't need to work on bambini and disabilità because you can already get that, yeah? And we had something like, can you make it a little bit bigger perhaps? Can you see that Martina has a, yeah, great, lovely. So Martina, it says, yeah, okay, great. Even though you heard the name Martina, there was no Martina in here. There was a very similar word though, where all you need to do is change one little letter. All right, and neuromotoria, again, just change one letter. What letter should we put in place of that O? A U, maybe. Let's give that a go. Okay, let's go. Okay, great. So we've got disabilità neuromotoria, and you probably didn't know how to say that in Italian beforehand, but by working on this, you've managed to do that. Okay, let's, and then we've got vengo, with 2 asterisks, so there's 2 letters missing. Let's have another listen.
Ogni lunedì mattina vengono in pre-ricovero 8 bambini affetti da disabilità neuromotorie.
If you're a C1, you can probably hear vengono, but otherwise it would be rather difficult to hear that, etc. Okay, but the main thing is that what we're doing is we're playing a game. We're doing a video game, if you like. Can you imagine not just all of you all together, but 2 people talking about language together while they're listening? Okay, so with Martina, can you go up to the word where, yeah, no, it's the next one.
Is this one?
Yeah, okay. So here in Italian, it says the first part of the day, then comes afternoon, evening, and night. Does anyone know that in Italian? Mattina, okay, with a double T, yeah, okay. And so we can ask for help. You, the teacher, will find out that you guys had a problem with this word mattina. And so as a teacher, I know that you haven't picked that up very well. You can even click on the words that you managed to get already. So bambini, piccoli, non adulti, something like that. You can save that word by clicking on the heart. Maybe it was a new word for you, probably not this one, but yeah, and you'll find that in your account behind you. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. Where is my PowerPoint? Okay, here we are. Okay, great. So thank you very much. How did getting those words feel to you if you were a non-Italian speaker? You felt good about it. How did you feel when I said there were comprehension questions? Same a repeated joke, and you laughed even the second time because it is so connected with. Do you feel like I wish I could fill in the remaining gaps? Yeah. Come down to the stand. We haven't got time to do this. 54C. Okay, what type of word was in the gaps? So you can see that we've got verbs and nouns. Oh, you can't see that anymore. Okay, but you've got all the syntax words in there that you were unable to pick up on, okay? Because you've never studied Italian, you don't know about this. But maybe you could pick up quite a lot of words just by doing this exercise. And you go, oh, okay, start to explore through listening. Okay, so the teacher changes from being the person who's going to give you -1 because you didn't spell neuromotoria right, so you're going to lose a mark. Goes from being a button pusher to standing behind the person, being a facilitator, and understanding where the problems are. So if you like stabbing in the light, I used here. And the learner works heuristically on their needs. And so if we can click back, there was, go on to the next one. Let's just see the feedback. Let's just see we won't bother with that. Okay, so there was, go down, yeah, okay, great. So we had a phrase in which they were talking about if you can decorate a bowl, it acquires more value as a work of art. Yeah, which was the word that you imagined they might have greatest problems with? It was bowl, okay, because there are so many words in English, not maybe in the languages of your students, not many single syllable words that begin with and end with a consonant, and they just have a vowel, one of the 19 or 20 vowels, to differentiate between the different ones. And so you can have a look at Pierre, for example. You can see heuristically how he was working on this. He wrote in bull. Oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah, no. It told him change the A and the L. Oh, okay, great. For some reason, he wrote bull for his next, because, of course, ancient people would decorate bulls, etc., etc., so that kind of makes sense. Then he went on to bowl. And you can see this heuristic idea, and then he's going bowl. Oh, now I don't know about you, but in Italy, it's bowling is called booling, and so they automatically they read the word boule, or so bowl, and they imagine boule in their heads. Okay, go back to the. Was that the end of the?
Should be.
Typical. Okay, just so. Thank you very much. We've had a few more things to do, but if you enjoyed that interactive experience, please come down to 54C and we can go into it, understand what your students are like. And do we have time for a couple of questions? If you have any, yeah. No, that was a yawn. Oh dear. Yes.
Can you, I don't know this at all, can you filter by level?
Yes. Yeah, there's 800 different texts in there. And if you're feeling creative, make your own. And if you want to make your own with Francesca later on today, or probably better in the next couple of days, then please come along and do that. And then you can take this into your class on Monday morning and give it to them and see if they enjoy that. Yes.
So you've demonstrated Italian and English.
Yep.
How many languages are available?
99.9% is English, because that's what everybody wants. We've got a little bit of French, but again, you can create your own. So, if you want to do, we've got one even in Danish, but which is much worse than English. But yeah.
But are you able
Oh, right.
you're able to add in other characters or accents
Yep.
for other languages?
Yeah, I've not tried it with Japanese or Chinese or anything like that, so I have no idea. I would hate to do this, I think, with Japanese or Chinese, so we shall see. Any other questions? Great. So come down to 54C. Thank you very much for being a very participative audience. Thank you. Did you take lots of notes?
Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
So you're Danish? No, you're not.
I mean, I'm not Danish.